Hello, everybody. Danielle here, and I am coming for the fifth live stream of the week, which is pretty incredible. Never done this many live streams all in 1 week before. And I'm doing one a day, and this is part of my challenge to myself in celebration of the Sedge reaching its fourth year anniversary, its fourth year business birthday at the beginning of this month, or I actually had it set pretty much to my birthday, May 29th. So that was on Monday. And so over the next 4 weeks, what I want to do is come on this live stream once a day and share a lesson learned, a throwback to the earlier years of starting the Sedge, and just think about what I was wondering about and trying to solve and dealing with in each of those time periods, and sharing that with you guys as a way to practice mining, lessons learned and stories from my own past, and of course, translating that into learning opportunities for you guys who might be at similar stage or dealing with similar kinds of questions or challenges. So today is the last day of year one coverage. And so if you missed any of the prior live streams, each day this week I talked about lessons learned from my first year. Monday was all about, let's see if I can remember all of them, how to get started, when to know when you should take the leap into full-time running your impactful business. Day two was, let's see, how to get noticed in the early days. So I talked a lot about what to pay attention to when you're applying for grants or competitions or things like that. Day three, what did I talk about? I think I missed one, but yesterday I talked about how to receive advice and what you should be asking yourself in order to determine whether you should take that advice to heart or not. And so that was one. And the fourth one is blanking on me. But anyways, you will find it on this page. And so I hope you go back and take a listen to some of those lessons learned over the past in year one of launching the Sedge. So today I want to talk all about being part of a team, and whether that's, well, in the examples that I'll be sharing, it's from the perspective of a co-founder team. So not just making your first hire or, having a contractor to help you out, but literally trying to form a cohesive and strong and effective leadership team in the early stages of your impactful business and what that could look like. So I have definitely my first experience in this role, or trying to make this type of thing work, was in the first year of the Sedge, when I went down to Santiago, Chile for the Startup Chile program with my two great friends from university and early co-founders. And so if you guys are watching, hi, I'm going to tell a little bit about our story, but no, I won't go into too much detail. And if you have your perspective to share, if you're watching, please let us know, and I welcome you to share that with everybody as well, because I think they would agree it was a challenging time for us to figure out how to be an awesome team. Now, we had very similar values and perspective on the type of impact we wanted to create. We weren't exactly sure when we went down there what it was going to look like in terms of what the business model was. We had our initial idea, but we hadn't started implementing. So we hadn't run into any of those big decisions about how do we steer the direction of this ship together. And so it's a challenge. And since then, so in the past year, I've been also working with Solène, my closest collaborator right now, in terms of launching and running Changemakers Association. So that's been really fun. And that's also been a co-founding relationship, and learning how to work really well together and make decisions for our business together. So I think some of you guys listening might have this type of scenario that you're dealing with, whether you are solo right now and want a co-founder. I know before I started the Sedge, I knew I wanted to do something on my own, but I loved the idea of having a team and having that really, high level support structure, not just mentoring or a mastermind group or a mentor, but literally having someone in the trenches with you where you're both, or in our case, there was 3 of us at the beginning, invested in the outcome and excited about making it happen and making it work. And I think that can go so far in terms of morale and, keeping your spirits up. You can really be there for each other. If one person is feeling demotivated or, discouraged about certain results or outcomes that have been showing up, that's when the other co-founders or co-founder can really pull them up and, be the cheering squad. And if you might find yourself in that cycle of one person's down, one person's up, but you can always bring each other back together and bring the energy up. And I know that was something that I really valued in the early days of The Sedge with my co-founders there, and that I love about working with Solène right now in Changemakers Association is we can really be there for each other when we need that pick-me-up, and in a way that someone outside of your business or even an employee can't really do for you as a founder. So in that sense, I think it's amazing. And there's a lot of other pros in terms of what that type of relationship can do for your business. And Solène and I talk a lot about the pros and the best practices in our book, Meeting of the Minds, The Social Entrepreneur's Roadmap to Collaborations That Work, where we outline not just specifically co-founding relationships, but that's kind of a unique type of collaboration. And we talk about how to set yourself up for strong and effective collaborations all along the spectrum of what those might look like. So I encourage you to check that out. I'll put the link in the comments so you can learn more about what we talk about in the book. But yeah, so in addition to that, kind of having a side-by-side team player who's going through the trenches with you, the other thing, of course, that's great about having a co-founder is they can bring skills to the table that you don't have and vice versa. And together you are stronger, which is amazing. It's a really great feeling, especially if there's pieces of your business that you're not that much a fan of doing, or you're just inherently not that strong in those areas, to be able to say, hey, you can just take over this area because you're awesome at it. That feels amazing to be able to do that and to really focus on what you're great at. So those are all the wonderful things about having a co-founding team. But it can present a lot of challenges too, right? Because you're dealing with personal relationships, and it can, there's a lot of layers sometimes in those relationships, and there's a lot of kind of personal communication things to navigate in addition to literally dealing with running your business, which is hard on its own when you're just dealing with your own brain and your own emotions. Now you double that, you triple that, and everybody is swirling around in each other's emotions and just creating a bit of, challenges, right? So pros and cons to each. But what I want to talk about today is some of my learnings or things that my recommendations if you are in a co-founding relationship, and how you might be able to set yourself up for better success. And like I said, Solène and I go into a lot of these ideas in much more detail in our book. And so if you're really interested in this topic, I hope you'll check out the book. It's only $9 for the electronic copy. And so it's good value, if I do say so myself. Okay, so for being part of a team, I think the first thing is and this is pretty obvious, but when you're in the heat of the moment and you're excited about the project you're working on, so in our case, it was a competition type scenario that kicked everything off, right? So the enthusiasm and the energy is really, really high when we found out, oh my gosh, this amazing program in South America is interested in having us come and join it and be a part of it. That is like a super high moment, right? And so in that moment, it's like, yeah, everything's great. Let's go do it. And, let's all move down to South America. It'll be a great adventure. And of course it was, but we didn't necessarily, and maybe we did to a certain extent, but I encourage you guys to do this explicitly, is to sit down and set expectations from day one. Or if you're on a big high, maybe, a few days after, and really talk to each person and listen to each person about where they are in their life personally right now, what they are looking to get out of that next step. Is it really a perfect fit for what they're wanting to achieve in their life? And how long of a commitment do they see this being? Not only how long in terms of length of time, but also level of commitment throughout each day, right? So is it something they're really excited to help you with, or that you're excited to work with someone else on, but maybe it's not a full-time gig? Maybe that just doesn't make sense for your life right now. And that's totally okay, as long as everybody knows where everybody's at in terms of that level of commitment. I just want to pause and say hi, everybody who's tuning in live. It's great to have you. If you want to say hi in the chat, that's awesome. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. And if you have any questions, let me know. So yes, can't say this enough. Set expectations about level of commitment, and not just, where they see themselves going with the project. And when I say they, I mean you too, because you need to be on the receiving end of the conversation as well. But why? What is the motivation behind it? How does that commitment fit into their bigger goals in their life, or kind of the path they see themselves going down? I think that can be a hugely valuable conversation to have early on. And the other thing, which we definitely didn't do, which I think would be amazing to do, and in fact, now that I think of it, I'm not necessarily doing it right now as Changemakers, and I'm going to suggest that we start doing that, is regular check-ins. And not about the projects, not about the tasks, not about the to-do list, because of course you're going to be doing that. You're going to be meeting, daily or weekly and figuring out your action plan. Yes, that's great, but I think it would be even better to have regular check-ins on that personal level. And just like you would in that first setting expectations conversation, have regular check-ins, whether it's monthly maybe, where you really check in person to person and ask, how is this going in your life right now? How is this fitting into everything else you have going on? Where are you feeling a bit, where are you having troubles fitting it in? Or, what are the challenges that are coming up for you right now? And are you still excited about this work? Like, is this still something that fits into your plan as an individual? And are those motivations and that purpose-driven, the why behind the work that you're doing, is it still there? Is it still relevant? Has anything changed in the last month or in the last quarter? So I think those regular check-ins could be really beneficial for that founding team, however, whether it's 2 people or more. And that kind of goes to the next point, which is all about having open communication, which we talk about a lot in the book as well, because for any collaboration, no matter how small or how big, kind of the most intense one being this co-founder relationship, you need to communicate early and often and about everything. So for people who are a lot in their head, or, who take a lot of more time to process their emotions and evaluate how they're feeling about certain situations, it can be uncomfortable to do that often, that early and often communication. If it doesn't come naturally to you to just spill out what you're thinking or what you're feeling, or if you sometimes struggle to get the words for what you want to express to your partner, and you guys will know this challenge in romantic partnerships or family partnerships, or your co-founders, it's all kind of the same stuff. There's a lot of challenges around communicating really well. So I think part of being good at that communication is knowing yourself and what your style is, where you have trouble communicating, where you are good at communicating, and just try and be as open as you can about that with the people you're working with. I think having a co-founder is pretty intense, right? It's like you're raising a child together, and there are going to be some disagreements. There are going to be some fights. There's going to be some varying approaches that each person wants to take, and you really need to talk it out and be on the same page and avoid any resentment or guilt or all those yucky emotions that can show up in any relationship, they can show up in your co-founding relationships too. And I mean, it's tough. I think practice and just being open with who you are and really making an effort to communicate often, or ask someone. Like if you're working with someone who you realize is not as open with sharing where they're at, or, you know, if there's conflicts, if you know they tend to avoid conflict situations, you can ask more directly and more often, right? To try and keep those lines of communication open. And so I would say, yeah, that's something in the first year. In our scenario, maybe we did well sometimes, and sometimes we could have done a lot better. And I think it's just practice, you know, and also having the right fit. So this brings me to my next point, which is respecting everybody's pace and everybody's individual strengths. And I don't mean skills, but as a worker, you know, how do they like to work? And that could be everything from schedule to pace to how much do they like to challenge themselves or push themselves. And everybody's different. Everybody has different thresholds for when, you know, they really want to be challenged and pushed. And some people thrive when their partner is saying, hey, let's do this. Like, I know you don't feel ready, but let's go for it. But if somebody doesn't thrive off that, it can backfire. If your partner is someone who is going to recoil or start to feel defensive or undervalued when their partner is challenging them, that's going to backfire and spiral down so fast. So again, it's understanding the type of person that you are working with and really what makes them tick in a good way and in a bad way, and just being aware of that. So not compromising your own needs for that, but knowing how to approach, again, the communication in a way that's going to be constructive for everybody. And again, it's really tough. But if you want to benefit from all of the amazing pros and, you know, benefits of having a co-founder in terms of bringing multiple skill sets together, multiple networks, keeping each other motivated and excited, all of those are hugely valuable, but you need to work to get them. You need to be okay to get a little bit uncomfortable in the communication sometimes and put yourself out there and be vulnerable. So that's another big one. So just to wrap things up, those are kind of my main tips about managing that type of relationship in general. I would say that one sign of a highly successful and highly functional co-founding team is when everybody has their piece of their strength, their strategy piece that they're really great at, and that everybody knows, okay, that's your sweet spot. Let's make sure that you are empowered to make decisions in that area, and we're going to respect your opinions. Obviously, we'll have discussions, but we can leave that strength to you. And I think it's a sign when it's going really well is when everybody is owning that piece, their own individual piece. They're owning it so well that they're constantly thinking about ways they can improve things, thinking about how to manage the project better, other innovative ideas that could be integrated. You know, they have that ideation brain on their topic all the time. And you'll notice the difference between that and someone on a team who is simply executing a project or executing their to-do list. And not to say that they might not be wonderful at that and excel at that, but are they owning it as a founder? And if they aren't, it might be for some of those motivation reasons, or it just not being a good fit in their life right now. Or, you know, there's probably some kind of reason why they're not owning it to the fullest extent. And I think that's a really good sign to open up the conversation and find out really where everybody's motivation is at and how everybody wants to move forward. But, you know, on the flip side, if you have each member of your team, whether that's 2 people or 3 people or even 4, like some teams have larger leadership teams, if everybody's just loving their chunk of responsibility and continually thinking of new ways they could improve that and move forward, and swapping ideas with their team members on how to grow, obviously, the whole vision of the organization, then that's a really great sign. And I think that's something to watch out for. And that's a sign you're on the right track with everything. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about those and what your experience has been working with other partners, and whether that's a co-founder from the beginning, or, we could talk about bringing a partner in further down, like if you've already been working on your idea for a little while, and depending what stage you're at and you want to bring somebody in, there's so much to consider and so much to talk about. So I would love to hear your opinions, your thoughts. And like I said, if you're interested in this topic, I would love for you to check out our book, Meeting of the Minds, the Roadmap for Collaboration, the Social Entrepreneur's Roadmap for Collaborations that Work. And I think you'll find some really great nuggets in there as well. And of course, I have some experience in this type of thing, and I know there's a lot more to learn, and there's ways to improve it over time, right, and get better and better. So I'm not saying I know all the things about this, and that's why I want to hear from you guys too, and hear what your experience has been, because I think it's so varied. It's so different for everybody. So let me know. And today is Friday, so this wraps up lessons learned from year 1 in business in my hashtag 4 years in 4 weeks. And next week I will be back live each day with lessons learned from my 2nd year in business. And again, trying to shift these, talk about these topics in a way that will hopefully be useful for you as well. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk again soon. Bye guys, have a great weekend.